Welcome to the Becoming Evergreen podcast, a podcast for leaders who long to grow deeply, live purposefully, and lead from a place of rest. I'm Carissa Fleming.
And I am Debbie Burnett, and we are your hosts. Our goal is to create spaces where leaders can thrive in any season, rooted, resilient, and becoming evergreen.
Welcome to Becoming Evergreen, a podcast for women who long to grow deeply, live purposefully, and lead from a place of rest. I'm Carissa.
And I am Debbie, and we are so glad you're here. And today we're going to share a little bit about who we are, what is becoming evergreen, and we're going to reflect on one of Jesus's most powerful invitations, the easy yoke.
So first, we're going to just tell you a little bit about who we are. I'm Carissa Fleming. I'm a former collegiate volleyball player turned coach, turned marketer. I'm a mom of 3, and I live in Orange County, California with my husband, Nathan, our children, and our 2 dogs. Right now, life looks like driving to and from school pickups. If I have some free time, I'm hiking maybe or running in the canyon. I also love playing volleyball because that was a passion for a long time. So I serve in children's ministry at church. And you also find me going on ice cream and shopping dates with my 13-year-old. She's like just a huge fan of that right now. I have a BA in Communication Studies from Biola University and a master's in the philosophy of religion and ethics from Talbot School of Theology. My career has taken me through just like a fast-paced medical world of the fast-paced world of medical technology. Worked within the startup sphere for ophthalmology and med tech devices. Within those organizations, I've helped build teams, brands, and strategies from the ground up. I'm also trained in the Townsend Leadership Program. It's been a really, really cool experience that I've had going through a couple of those leadership programs, and I'm passionate about growth, whether it's in business, faith, or family. I am also extremely excited about becoming evergreen and essentially finding rhythms that last, building systems that support what matters most, and becoming the kind of person who thrives in any season. Throughout each of these seasons, finding space outside, building connections with others, they've all been incredibly important to me. So, Debbie, why don't you take it away?
That was well said. I was just thinking about how all of our degrees, they're like just kind of a mouthful.
Yes.
Mine is that way too. It's like not just a one-word thing like business. But anyway, I am Debbie, and I live in San Francisco area, so I'm a little closer to the ocean here in Santa Cruz. I am a travel junkie. I love working in coffee shops, reading coffee shops, and I love working with groups and what makes them tick. So I always joke that like I read books about burnout for fun, which sounds odd, but it's basically like how do we thrive is always on my mind. And that comes to like your job and what the position you have to kind of what makes people tick. And leadership books. So I did my master's, here's the long handle, in Christian formation and ministry at Wheaton College. That's where I did my master's. But of course, Chris and I met in our undergrad, and we're in the same undergraduate communication studies program. So, but the premise question of that master's was, how do we teach in a way that people grow and transform? Not just this head knowledge piece, but how do we get transformed by whatever it is that we're learning and integrate it into our hearts and minds and behaviors? And that for me became a passion just from kind of early on and working with youth. And I eventually became a children's pastor and worked with actually a church plant team in Colorado right after my master's for about 7 years. And then kind of moved back to the Bay Area to take care of my mom when she was really sick, and I launched into a career working with team building and corporate training. And so it's been just an interesting journey, whether I'm working with youth or working with adults. I felt very called to go back into the corporate world. And like, I feel like anytime I walk into that setting, I feel like it's my job to be an ambassador of Christ and just bring peace and create these spaces of welcome. And we're talking about psychology. We're playing and doing connection events. You know, it's a mix, but I really love what I do here in the Silicon Valley, and I'm excited to bring that same kind of expertise into spiritual conversations and fostering events and spaces and conversations about emotional health and spiritual health and how do we thrive. And so Chris and I have actually been friends, like I said, since our junior year. And we were very intentional. But we also lucked out and had just this amazing floor of girls
We did.
that kind of led to us being friends. So yeah. What else you
Yes.
got, Krista?
Debbie has been what I would call a lifelong friend. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a privilege to know her. What I love about Debbie is her commitment to growth and living life with purpose. We have been dreaming together, I think, since we like lived in the dorms. But I would
Yeah.
definitely say over the
Okay.
past 10 years and then into the last 5 years, we keep
Yeah.
coming back to this idea of becoming evergreen. And just as I have gone through the corporate world a little bit and experienced being laid off and getting
Yeah.
remarried. And, it's amazing how much we need space to grow. And it's very easy to become disconnected quickly, focused
Yeah.
on life, focused on career, focused on whatever that is. And so we've been talking about what does it mean to come together? And then how do we talk about burnout and the need for meaningful connection? And so we're seeing the same kinds of things in your world and my world. People are craving
Yeah.
more, not more
Yeah.
tasks, not more hustle. I mean, we all know that. I mean, as a mom driving around with 3 kids, the hustle is real, and the side
Yeah.
hustle is also a huge thing right now. So as we're, in a generation where people are side hustling it as much as they can, I would like to bring more clarity, more depth, and more purposeful
Right.
connection. So that's what Becoming Evergreen was born to offer. So I'm super excited to launch Becoming Evergreen with you, Debbie.
Yeah. Well, and that's fun too because Chris and I have spent many years doing phone calls because honestly, we haven't lived in the same town in quite a while. And
Years.
so it's like those phone calls at 9 o'clock at night while you're doing dishes. Thank God you
Yeah.
have a dishwasher now.
Yes.
And
Me too.
just some of those things that help you process life. And Kristen, no matter what she was going through and all the stresses of life with young kids and family, you were always the most encouraging person. I felt like that
Aw,
you believe in
thank
people
you.
well. I'm going to start crying now, but you believe in people well. And so just doing this with you is a privilege. And it's interesting because Becoming Evergreen was born out of a conversation, I want to say in like 2020, 2021,
I think so. Or maybe even
something like
before.
that
Yeah,
before,
2017,
but
2018.
we both love the outdoors, and I actually live in the coastal redwoods, and I was on this train ride through the redwoods, and they were sharing all these facts about redwoods, and I just thought, gosh, this is the perfect analogy of what it looks like to thrive in any season. And redwoods specifically, their root systems are all interconnected with all those tall trees next to them, which I did not know.
Yeah.
And that they have like tannins in the bark that help protect them from fires and outside things coming and harming that soft core, and just the ability of evergreens in general to thrive in any season, whether it be a cold, harsh winter with a lot of snow or a hot summer, and just the way that they hold water or have access to water. Um, I think is fascinating. Um, so yeah, in essence, that analogy leads us to like, who are we? But it's
Mm,
the idea of transformation where you get to step away, realign, and grow without distraction, but being rooted in faith. And we want to, again, it's patterned after the natural world, the idea of resiliency and thriving in any season. But yeah, what about for you? What stuck out for you in the evergreen analogy?
yeah, Debbie, I've loved talking about this idea of becoming evergreen, talking about the redwoods and their inner connection. Their root system is truly amazing. And it really brings back to this place I was at when I was in undergrad. I was living in Northern California on the coast in Humboldt County, playing volleyball there, and was really actually extremely disconnected.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to get emotional now too. But
I
just
know.
this idea, I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
How part of this idea, it really is. And so one of the things that I really felt like I was a, 19-year-old, I felt the Lord draw me back and just, remind me and led me to Psalm 1. And he just, I went and hadn't read it. And Psalm 1:3, I'm actually going to start at the beginning because I think it's valuable. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in season, and its leaf does not wither. In all that he does, he prospers. And that idea of what does it mean to prosper, and not prosper in the way of the world, but actually prosper internally, focused on our Heavenly Father who is upward. And so that idea of
Yeah.
experiencing, being rooted in the ground, being rooted, having streams, having nutrients, having water. And actually, it's a very John Townsend idea too, where he talks about the nutrients of the tree. And um, that's just one of those things that it's been really part of me, and it's fun to
Yeah.
kind of bring it back full circle. So evergreen trees, they don't wait for perfect conditions to flourish. They grow deep roots. They stay
Yeah.
green even in winter, which is really wonderful because here in Southern California, there's actually this tiny, tiny little redwood location. It was planted, I think, I don't know, 100 years ago in North Orange County, and you can walk through these redwood trees, and they're thriving and they're well watered, right? They may
Yeah.
not be as beautiful as the ones you have where you're at, but just that
It's a little
idea.
hotter.
Yeah, just that idea that we grow deep roots, we stay green even in winter. And that is the vision for Becoming Evergreen, and for this podcast, and for more to come.
Yeah. Well, and I know that the idea of being evergreen is something in the business world too, where they talk about companies being evergreen and being able to last through different seasons and transition as society changes. And so I just love how these analogies translate into a lot of different spheres. Um, I know that we have just this invitation too from Jesus, just about the easy yoke. So yeah, I would love to read Matthew 11:28 through 30 and talk about the idea of the easy yoke and that invitation. So the verse says, Then Jesus said, Come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. Which you hear that and you think, I don't know if you've heard different teachings on what a yoke means in this context, but they talk about the teachings of a rabbi is referred to as a yoke. And so basically, like Jesus's way of doing things, the teachings that he brings are light. You also hear the analogy of a yoke and oxen.
Mm.
But yeah, what does this mean to you as you hear this, and what sticks out to you out of this verse?
Yeah, I mean, so just a little backstory. Debbie and I, as we were
Yeah.
getting ready to prepare for Becoming Evergreen, we spent some time. We went up to my parents' cabin in Northern California, and this was the verse that we kept coming back to, that we really felt like, oh, wow. And so, just it really encapsulates that idea of the burden that we feel, the burden that, we feel on our chest, on our shoulders. We carry so much these days,
Yeah.
as professionals, as mothers, as whatever it is, church leaders. We carry so much, but actually, the burden, it's supposed to be light if we're living as, if we're living under Jesus Christ. And so there was a time where, in 2020, I was a single mom at the time. I was working full time. I had 3 kids. Sorry, I had 2 kids at the time. I had 2 children, and it felt like 3. I don't know. They were trying to do kindergarten on Zoom, which is just a
My
complete
gosh.
joke. And they were at their dad's for one weekend, and I was taking a walk in the park, and I felt this just like heaviness. And I was wondering, well, do I have COVID? Well, I've had it a few times, so now I know what it feels like, but I didn't
Yeah.
then. And I just was like, oh my goodness, there's this heavy pressure, and I must have it. And now I recognize, and like shortly, like during that time, I recognized actually that was anxiety. And I was just experiencing just this heavy, heavy burden, heavy weight. And as a Christian, that really isn't what it's supposed to feel like. And I'm sure there's seasons and reminders of God saying, hey, you know, I'm actually giving you these feelings for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But at that time, I was able to realize, I'm just, completely disconnected. And so I took some
Yeah.
time. actually changed up where I was attending church at the time because it was all virtual and I really needed, so we ended up meeting at church in a parking lot. I made some really valuable connections at the time, but just that idea of living connected to to our Heavenly Father, experiencing the Holy Spirit living within us and being connected to others. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because burnout, oddly enough, that World Health Organization classified as a health crisis. And
Mm.
that's funny because that was before 2019. And I remember like walking with you through that season and just thinking about there's all these conversations, I think, over the last 5 years about the increase in anxiety in
Yeah.
people and in our youth. And I don't know if you've seen Inside Out too. I feel like
Yes,
you
it's
have,
wonderful,
but
especially if you have a 13-year-old
I
old, because
honestly, yeah, when you talk about emotional health, I'm like,
yeah,
honestly, watch Inside Out. We can have a great conversation.
yes,
But just the whole
sarcasm.
scene, sarcasm, ennui, embarrassment.
Yeah,
Anyway, but like
yeah.
just the anxiety character, there is this desire to control for all the different things. And then also just what happens in your heart when it just starts to get to that escalated spot. And it's just like you said, like kind of sitting on your chest. I feel
Mm,
like that phrase people have said, like when they're feeling that kind of anxiety, there's this like tightness or like something sitting on their chest. And just like just this invitation from Jesus, like sometimes we'll read this and be like, is that really possible? But
mm,
that Jesus always stands in front of us and invites us. Like he doesn't shove us forward. Like if you ever hear analogies about sheep and shepherds, like Jesus does not shove his sheep. He stands in front of them and invites them. And so just this invitation for an easy yoke is not a small thing. And just
yeah.
um I think just going through burnout myself, what always struck me was I didn't always know I was getting burnt out until I was like way past that line. I don't know if you've
Mm,
experienced that too. And then it just takes a little while to put yourself back together. And I have I have two different seasons I always think of when I think about seasons of burnout. One was kind of in my mid 20s when I was working at a camp and kind of just a role that for me I just was not very successful in. So it was a
mm,
little bit of just being in the wrong job and just a lot of tension in the workplace with some of our staff. But I also think of a season when I was a children's pastor and I was doing two jobs, and kind of was running to some of those same things where I'm like, I was the right fit for that job for the first 5 years. And as the children's ministry grew and needed someone with a different set of giftings, I was just running up against this. Oh, I don't know if I'm the right person to carry this into the
mm,
next season. And I was just working 6 or 7 days a week over a long period of time because I was holding two jobs. And so I remember going on a trip with a friend and we were sitting on a beach somewhere and just thinking, I can't unwind. Like the hurry in my
mm.
heart, I'm sitting on a beach. It is crystal clear in the waters, but I cannot it's like your insides are curled up.
Yes,
Like I
yes, I know
couldn't
that feeling.
uncurl. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so if you've ever read John Mark Comer, he talks about this basically this mode of hurry. Um
Mm,
and I couldn't kind of get that. So I needed to get that out of my body, out of my system and de-stress, but I wasn't able to. And that was my first clue. I'm like, I am burnt out. um
yeah.
yeah. Well,
Well, I just
and
love
so
your
we
passion
thank
for
you.
addressing this, and I think,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why we're coming together because we
Yeah.
definitely, in our lives, we're not the only ones who feel this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so,
Yeah.
even in just meeting, I've been meeting part of this team for the last year with women going through different seasons, and just that question of like, how do we get past this? What's next? And that's why we're here. We want to address the burnout. We want to address the disconnection, and I'm really excited, Debbie, you have more on that, but I just wanted to jump
Yeah.
in there. Yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah, and it's just fun as we talk about this. Fun sounds weird to say, like we're having fun talking about burnout, but just
Yes.
it feels that important, and vital. And so, kind of where we're headed, and kind of who should listen, is if you're in transition. Maybe your kids just started school. Maybe you're coming off a season of intense caregiving. Maybe you've been holding two jobs like I did and still do. Actually, I have 3 jobs now, which is, a
Way
little
to
wild.
go.
Yeah.
Yay,
It's not
becoming
it's
evergreen.
not it's not a badge of honor. It's probably stupid on my part. But anyway, and, if you're leading at church or work, and honestly, if you just hear what we said and go, "I understand. I've been there,"
Mm,
that's for you. We're gonna pack how to do that, how to integrate your body, your heart, your mind with your spiritual life, and how to walk that out as a whole person. Yeah, what do you think, Carissa? Who would you
yeah, I
recommend
think,
this to?
yeah, I would definitely recommend this to anyone who's craving something deeper. The
Yeah.
idea is growing without striving, right? Right. I don't want people to feel like, oh, I've got to do all these things. Actually, it's, it's that light burden, right?
Yeah.
That yoke, taking people, having people next to you that are working with you, that are walking with you, and we're excited to walk through this season with you as well. And so, if you want to lead without losing yourself, if you want to rest without guilt, because oh boy, but without the hangups of it, the hangups
Yeah.
of Netflix binging and other things that can become in this. Like you're not alone. But Becoming Evergreen is here to help you reconnect with God, with yourself, and with others in a meaningful way. And I also, one thing we've been saying throughout this podcast, but haven't really like touched on, but just the idea of getting outside in nature is so
Yeah.
vital. And so you're going to see those elements woven throughout this podcast and throughout
Yeah.
all the things that we're going to do. And we're going to do many, and I'm excited about them. But for
Yeah.
Debbie and I both, she's an avid hiker,
Okay.
walker. I love hiking, taking jogs outside, playing beach volleyball. And so but doing that in community and doing that in, solitary as well. But that idea. So
Yeah. And even just creating spaces of rest, like just the
yeah,
idea of decluttering just for a moment, and just it's so hard to listen and hear the Lord when there's just all this noise around. And I think that's partly why I love the woods. I feel like for me, there's a lot of different ways everyone connects with the Lord. So this is
mm,
not the only way, but that's one of the ways that I connect with the Lord and create space and cut out all the noise. And honestly, even my
yeah,
house is a distraction sometimes.
yes, me
Just
too.
whatever it is that's your day to day is your distraction. It could be something very normal. And also even like times in the car. So just we talk about the ways we can create space in our daily life, but it's just talking about that as a community, equipping people, and not just what they're doing, but like the way we hold our lives and our modes of
Yeah,
operating and our rhythms in order to create that easy yoke, and to
yeah,
learn how to walk that out, and to be taught by Jesus because he modeled this. And
yes,
it's possible. And even just to hear someone say, this is possible, and to be
yeah,
encouraged, that alone would be a delight to hear that happened
yes,
with people, is because sometimes you just need to be reminded that this is possible. And so, yeah,
yes.
if people want to follow or subscribe, what would you suggest, Carissa? How do they
Yeah,
follow
we're
this
on
journey?
Instagram, Becoming Evergreen or at Becoming Evergreen. Please subscribe to our podcast. That will definitely help. And please share this episode with a friend. And then in the show notes, I'll have a place where you can go to our website. You can learn more about Becoming Evergreen, who we are, what we're doing. So would love to have you along for this journey with us.
Well, I always like to end on a fun question. So, Carissa, I'm
Okay.
going to ask you just a really random question. What is the thing you're most excited about this summer? You talked about
Ooh,
ice
I
cream.
get
You
to
talked
come
about all
see
the things.
you. I get to go to
Yeah.
family camp up in Mount Hermon.
Yeah.
And what's really amazing about family camp is we all have our own things we get to do. My husband and I can have our own breakout sessions, but we're in the redwoods,
Mm,
doing it with family, with my in-laws and my mother-in-law. I'm just really excited about getting outside with my kids and connecting with them, hopefully on some deeper levels in a unique environment that's not home. So, what
yeah.
about you?
Yeah. I always have fun being auntie in that situation too, because I get to
Yes.
float around, try to drop off her 13-year-old at her camps, but she's not as into having the adults around. No, I think for me it's just like coming back from some travel and being here. Like I love where I live as far as the access to nature. And I'm also in this space where everyone's coming to me. So I'm very excited you all are coming. But
Yeah.
even just I did a run through a state park that's just right across the street from me
Mm,
yesterday. Not fast, but just kind of enjoying the space that I live and being by the ocean and just being outside. And this is a season that's actually slightly slower for my work, and trying to actually just enjoy it. So, yeah,
awesome.
enjoying the redwoods and the ocean.
Yay. Well,
Yeah.
please share this episode with a friend. Let's become rooted. Let's become resilient. Let's become evergreen together. Thank you for joining us on the Becoming Evergreen journey. If this episode resonated, hit subscribe, share it with a friend, or visit becomingevergreen.com for more info.
Remember, lasting growth doesn't happen overnight. Stay rooted, stay present, and keep becoming evergreen.